for tuning in, everybody who has not feeling great, but I'm going to live stream anyway because, of course, Doomsday has come upon us. So now that it's Doomsday, I might as well just stream all the time, every day, and talk about space weather and Earth weather, and maybe even some other various things. So yeah, I've noticed that the massive earthquakes and tsunamis have continued off of the coast of Kamchatka, which is pretty interesting. Hopefully, they're not foreshocks to a larger event. I mean, you know, foreshocks aren't a really good predictor of earthquakes, at least not generally speaking. They're not very good predictors. So, but sometimes you get a foreshock and then you get a larger event. So, if an 8.8 magnitude earthquake is a predecessor to a larger event, that's a really large event. So I suspect they're just aftershocks, uh, and I suspect that when the scale gets as big as 8 plus, it's a little bit tough to have reliable measurement, perhaps. You know that this happens with magnitudinal type scales. You know, when you're at the top of the when you're like near the 8 to 9 border. Same with solar flares. Any scale, it's like that because it's a 9 magnitude quake is 10 times as powerful as an 8 magnitude quake. An order of magnitude more intense shaking. So yeah, I'm just I gotta set some things up here because stream settings. And we've, of course, figured out, my bad yesterday, there actually is a place to title the video. I somehow missed that. I don't know. Whatever. Cheers. Cheers, YouTube. So, yeah, we'll talk about solar activity and so on here briefly. The sun is kind of at an average number of sunspots right now. We're actually a bit above the monthly average here at the moment. I mean, we've got a little over 150 sunspots right now. It's pretty decent number of sunspots there. Moving the monthly average up a little bit here at the moment. So as we ramp down from solar maximum, which occurred October, was it October of last year? Can anybody verify? And thanks for leaving comments, everybody who has. I do see the comments there. Thanks for chiming in. Chaya Shalhevet and Mason Zufelt. Please don't spam. But thanks for leaving comments. And let's see. What's the radio flux at? According to solon.info/solar, radio flux is it's only at about 130 right now. So we do have a little bit of flaring activity. You know, I always have a third monitor going there. So we've always got that going, and see some minor flaring taking place down there in the southwesterly quadrant, right near the limb there. And it's actually looking like a decent size. That's actually a decent size flare there, it looks like. Maybe an M class? Let's check it out. Might be an M class flare. Let me just navigate to the GOES X-ray flux. Oh geez, it doesn't look like very much at all. That's weird. Oh, that's definitely some kind of that's like at least an upper level C class flare for sure. Weird that it's not on the GOES X-ray flux yet. It's supposed to be 1 minute data. I don't know how it would be. So yeah, welcome to the final day of July, and I've I've managed to hurt myself. So, and I mean, we're going to make a dedicated video about it, but basically, what I did is I idiotically tried to do a pull up. so, so I don't know how much of you know about being in like peak physical condition for a certain activity, but you typically have to cross train, and because you can't just ride the bike constantly. You have to do other things, or you'll burn out, or your bike will try to split you in half, or something like that, right? So, all right, yeah. So, cheers. Thanks everybody for showing up here. Yeah, and spreading positivity. Fantastic. Um, so yeah, this has been an interesting few days as far as earthquake activity goes. Um, like I'd say the most active seismically, the most seismic activity I think ever since we started the channel. Actually, I mean the number of quakes is just insane. I mean, here I'll turn the camera around again. Look, there's the Kamchatka Peninsula. Look at all those quakes, and like they're all sort of on the big side. Oh man. So yeah, I saw an alert this morning. I saw more tsunami reports. There must be videos all over the place showing tsunamis. I mean, I saw a 1.5 meter one at California. So that's sure Hawaii had some. I saw reports from Guam. I mean, all over the Pacific. So yeah, it's pretty serious. A bunch of 8+ magnitude quakes. I don't know how many 8+ magnitude quakes it was, but oh, all right, we haven't had one for a while. But I'm still getting reports here coming in from because I get email alerts. So if you've got email alerts, let us know in the comments what the most recent ones are, if you wouldn't mind. Um, let's briefly talk about Earth weather, as we've got some certainly hot and smoky conditions over the U.S. So, and of course, I pay a little more attention to the east side of the country than the west side. If you're from the west coast, it may be useful. Come visit the east coast. It's spectacular this time of year. Oh, geez, it's so good. It's so good. So yeah, we've got this high pressure zone. I think we've got Saharan dust playing a factor. Let me just check on that real quick. And I know we've got both Canadian and U.S. wildfire smoke. So a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on as far as the natural environment. Yes. Barb Arian, thanks for leaving a comment, says that the Chilean coast water is still receding. Barbarian, one of our viewers who may or may not be in disguise. So, there's another run of Saharan dust coming across. So it's it's just about to hit the Leeward Islands now. So yeah, coming to a Caribbean near you is Saharan dust, and it'll make its way to Florida probably. Can I get a forecast? I can get a forecast. Let's see. Nah, it's not really going to hit you very hard. It's going to hit the Leeward Islands pretty hard, but if it does get there, it's going to take better part of a week. So, but there is more Saharan dust on the way. As far as severe, do we have any severe across the U.S.? Anybody getting any severe weather? Let me see what's going on as far as the radar. So yeah, we got a string of storms stretching all the way from Indiana to Maine here. And the strongest storms are on the tail end of that. So Cincinnati is in the crosshairs right now. Cincinnati is about to get hit, especially the northern part of the area. And those systems are moving almost due east. All right, so back to space weather here for a minute. What do we got as far as sunspots? I mean, the one in the southwestern limb is certainly the most promising right now because it is flaring. So again, still no idea why that GOES X-ray flux isn't showing those recent flares. I mean, there's no way that's barely a C-class event. So I don't know what's going on with that. That's kind of weird. But what can you say? I don't know. I mean, after doing daily space weather for over 6 years, I know what I'm looking at. And that's definitely a flare there. So maybe the GOES isn't updating or something. It's very strange. Very strange indeed. So, but yeah, there is an active region down there in that southwestern limb that is clearly producing some activity. Let me look at the high res here. Is it beta gamma delta? Not really. It's I'll say it's beta gamma. It's not beta gamma delta, I don't think. I don't know. It's borderline. I mean, but hey, it's producing some flares. And we do have some massive filaments, or we did have some massive filaments. Let's see if they're still in place. And by the way, if you don't follow us on Twitter, you should. x.com/smashomash is where you can find us. And we name filaments after living humans. So we've got 2 in the sun right now that are named after people. And that one just to the west of center, which I'm going to look at from El Teide here. That one is really massive. That's named after Sarah Husial. She's a space weather personality. Perhaps follow her on Twitter as well. The one in the upper, the one that just rose over the northeast, it's looking pretty weak now. I named that one after Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. So, yeah, tsunami, Federal Reserve, Bill Gates, chemtrail, geoengineering. Got to put those keywords in there for the algorithm, right? Doesn't matter what you type in the tags, just say words, say buzzwords all day, and people will tune in because reasons. Just kidding, folks. The reasons are the algorithm. It's not mysterious as to why this happens. Yes, the algorithm is very good at voice to text, even if it's bad at typing into your phone for you. So, yeah, what else is going on, folks? You got any news stories? Let's see what's going on in the news today. I like to check CNBC because, financial news is pretty hard to slant, although they do find a way to do that. One important thing is that the Federal Reserve didn't adjust interest rates yesterday. So, you know how President Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk have been pressuring the Fed to lower interest rates? Well, the Fed didn't lower interest rates, and I'm frankly surprised. I forecasted that they were going to lower interest rates by 0.25 basis points, basically an appeasement lowering of the prime lending rate, but they didn't do it. They left the interest rate the same, which means the Fed is concerned about inflation. Will they raise rates? they've definitely painted themselves into a corner. So if they raise rates, then Trump and Musk are going to be even more mad. Um, a lot of people equate the stock market to the economy, and that couldn't be farther from reality. The stock market is not the economy; it's one aspect of the economy. And so, yeah, like if they would have lowered rates, the market would have gone berserk today and gone up. Why? Because low interest rates encourage companies to borrow money to pay people in stock options instead of salaries, and there are tax implications, and plus they're buying back their own stock, plus they're directly buying back their own stock, and all of those things affect the market. If it's really cheap to borrow, you can just borrow money and buy your own stock, and it's like, don't even get me started. Like, and of course, real estate moguls want low interest rates because they're paying mortgages on a million properties. So self-interests, like everybody votes for self-interest, right? um I don't know. It's like economics is really difficult for people to understand. I realize that there are a lot of variables involved, but most of the macro concepts are not complicated. So yeah, so Fed kept rates the same. um and as far as other news goes, I'll be using an unnamed source for these stories, which I may or may not talk about. What do we have? Um, a human was stolen from Mar-a-Lago, allegedly. What else you got? Turbulence on a Delta flight forces emergency landing and sends 25 people to the ER, I guess. Wow. That's some impressive turbulence. And did you know that you can forecast turbulence? Yeah, you can forecast turbulence. You want to know how? All right, I'll tell you. I'll even show you how. So, there's a weather map that you can look at. Anybody flying, pay attention. There's a weather map you can look at called the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite. There's a whole suite of interactive satellites. And one of them, which is called Channel 8, is the East Coast GOES. And the East Coast GOES Channel 8 is a water vapor map. Okay? If you look at a water vapor map, you will be able to see where the dry air and where the moist air is located, right? So here's the animation of it. There you go. There's the water vapor map, right? And that is how you know where turbulence is going to be. If you're flying from a place of moist air, that air has effectively less lift at a given airspeed. So because the air is moist, it is also less massive. When you fly into one of these dry air regions, like if you're going north across Texas, you'll experience turbulence as you get here because this air is more massive. So that's like hitting a speed bump for the plane. You're cruising along at this speed, and now all of a sudden, boom, you hit a wall of more massive air. The plane gets more lift, and you're running into more massive air. So that's what happens. Um, so yeah, you can forecast where turbulence will happen. You can even forecast where people are going to see persistent contrails. Why is that? Why does anybody know why you can forecast where persistent contrails are going to be located? I always know where the reports are going to come in. I could travel around the country and just be at the spot where the persistent contrails are all day and just interview people and be like, yo, what's up with those persistent contrails? And you're going to get, I don't know, I'll bet it's like half and half. I'll bet half of the people think that it's something nefarious, and the other half are like artificial clouds that form because of the low pressure system and the injection of water vapor from the plane, because there's a low pressure system following you. When you walk down the sidewalk, or when you walk anywhere, or when you run or ride a bike, or if you're moving in front of you, there's a high pressure zone because the air piles up. There's a surface tension to it. It's a fluid. So you're compressing the air that is in front of you, and the air that's behind you is getting stretched out, which makes it lower pressure. And then other air rushes in to fill that area. So you're being followed all the time by a low pressure zone. This is why riding in a pack on a bike is so much more efficient than riding by yourself. Um, low pressure, high pressure, understand what's going on there, and like you'll be better off. You'll be able to understand things like the weather and aircraft tech. So when you burn a highly refined kerosene product like Jet A, for example, or Jet B, I don't know which one's which. I think everybody uses Jet A. I don't know. But the exhaust contains water vapor, like the exhaust for your car. You're burning, you're burning a flammable liquid, and there's an exhaust plume. So there's an infusion of water, and there's a low pressure zone. So what do you know about water and low pressure zones? That's where clouds and storms and things are. I know, right? High pressure equates to more massive air and dry days. So those areas where you see very, very little amount of water vapor, these areas here, the skies are going to be clear over those areas. Clear skies, clear skies, clear skies. And the reason that the dry air is more massive than the moist air is because of the molecular mass of N2. Nitrogen, N2, the main component of the atmosphere, is more massive than H2O. So the higher the relative humidity gets, the more water to nitrogen ratio you have in that section of air. And so whether or not contrails are persistent is a function of the pressure, temperature, humidity, and air wind speeds. Okay, so you can have a persistent contrail, but if you have really strong winds there, it'll break up and you'll see it like fizzle out and turn into, get less and less compact. It'll just sort of diffuse. That's when you have high winds, but the right conditions otherwise. And so the persistence of contrails tells you stuff about the weather. You can tell what's going on up there, and you can even get a sounding report. A sounding report tells you what's going on at different levels in the atmosphere, and that's how we know where persistent contrails will be. There's even an effort going on. There's an effort going on right now to fly planes around places where persistent contrails will form. Because look, contrails are pollution, all right? This is the thing to understand. Contrails are pollution. It's an unintentional cloud that forms behind a plane. They don't want them to form there particularly, but when you fly a plane through certain parts of the sky, contrails form. And that makes shade on the ground, right? It's affecting things. The same way ship tracks. That was a big deal. The Earth's temperature went up when they took sulfides out of ship fuel, diesel fuel for ships. There are less ship tracks now, which means more sunlight hits the ocean, which warmed the planet. That is bonkers. And that's not the greenhouse effect, folks. I mean, it's the albedo effect. Okay, the difference is the albedo effect is infrared light bouncing off of mainly clouds, but also snow and ice. Those are the main things. Snow, ice, and clouds bouncing infrared light back into space. That makes the world cooler. The albedo effect, and it can turn into a runaway albedo effect, like when the NAO shuts down. The AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC. When that shuts down because too much fresh water comes out of Greenland into it and it shuts down, then the albedo effect goes berserk in the northern hemisphere, and you get an ice age. Like, this is a known mechanism. So, but there is a greenhouse effect too. So, like contrails, the net effect of contrails at nighttime is that they make the planet a little bit warmer because they reflect some infrared, they emit some infrared back down. Clouds emit infrared light. Like, that's why it stays warm on an overcast night. You ever notice how in the summertime, when it's clear out, like in the desert, it gets cold at night? That's because the Earth radiates its heat back into space. And when it's overcast at night, it stays warm because the heat is radiating up, it's heating up the cloud, and then the cloud is radiating some of that energy into space and some of that energy back down to the ground. So the net effect of contrails at nighttime is they make the planet a little warmer, and in daytime they make the planet a little colder, and overall contrails make the planet slightly cooler because they're lowering the daytime highs. You're getting lower daytime highs and higher nighttime lows because of artificial clouds. Is that sufficient? Like, did I make anybody mad by saying that? I mean, some of the arguments about this are just so silly. And look, people are very used to arguing with others that don't know physics and don't know meteorology and like, oh geez, it's bonkers. But anyway, I just figured I would share how to forecast airline turbulence because, I mean, I've done this. The one time my mom flew from Pennsylvania back down to Florida, and I said, keep an eye on where you are because when you fly over North Carolina, you're going to get turbulence because there's a band of dry massive air that you're going to fly right through. And what do you know? They got turbulence over North Carolina. Wow. Amazing. It's like magic. Magic, understanding how stuff works. It's just magic. So yeah, oh, and a little talk about, let's go back to the earthquake scenario. It looks like they're calming down now, so all I see is 24 hours of aftershocks. I don't see any more eights. The tsunami reports are now going to start to fizzle, it looks like. And thank goodness, because tsunamis are the deadliest thing that happens. I mean, tsunamis are like no joke. So, but let's talk about coronal holes and earthquakes because there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. Like, look, oh, there's a coronal hole. Did that one cause the 8 magnitude quakes when it was over here? Is that coronal hole, that little tiny coronal hole there? Did that cause the earthquakes? Really? Did somebody forecast the earthquakes? Did they now? They forecasted like where and when those are going to happen? Because looking at the sun and seeing a coronal hole somewhere, even a massive one, and saying, "Oh, look out, everybody, there's going to be an earthquake somewhere, sometime." That's not a forecast. Not a forecast. Like, you have to have a time and a place. What am I going to do with a forecast when somebody says, "Oh, look, there's a coronal hole, which means there's going to be a big earthquake somewhere"? Okay, what am I going to do? Evacuate the whole planet? That's like the most idiotic thing I ever heard in my life. There's going to be an earthquake somewhere. What? What am I supposed to do with that? Like, you can statistically, just based on statistics, a 6 magnitude earthquake happens like every, who knows, every 20 hours average or something like that. You get a 6 magnitude earthquake somewhere. So how the hell are you going to forecast an earthquake based on there's a coronal hole? If you were going to do it, you would have to use, like, if there, let's say coronal holes, for sake of argument, actually cause earthquakes, right? When there's a coronal hole, it causes the earthquake. Like, I don't know, when its magnetic field lines reach the earth, right? We know when this happens. How do we know when it happens? Because those of us who know how magnets work and know how the heliosphere, like what's going on in the heliosphere, because we know what data to look at and what it means, we'll look at this thing called the top view ecliptic plane field plot, which is one of my favorites. It's one of the coolest things. The Gong 2 data. Here, I'll briefly show you it. This shows you the heliosphere's magnetism. So here is your South Pole oriented magnetic sector of the heliosphere. Here's a current sheet. Here's another current sheet, current sheet, current sheet, northern section of the heliosphere. And then these are the magnetic field lines on the sun itself. So, but these are the sun's magnetic field lines reaching out into space. And so you'd think, oh, well, I don't know, when it's the strongest, or maybe when it crosses into the other sector or something like that, that would be when the coronal hole is going to forecast the earthquakes, right? Except it doesn't. Like, try to forecast it. If we could forecast large earthquakes, don't you think people would want to do it? No, they wouldn't want to do it because Bill Gates and George Soros have the CIA trying to kill you. The CIA is trying to rub out everybody. Like, what? Look, I understand the depopulation agenda. I mean, I know there's an argument for every idiotic idea in the universe. But look, coronal holes don't forecast earthquakes, period. Like, deal with it. I'm so glad that the 8+ magnitude earthquakes happen without a huge coronal hole, because they're as likely to happen as huge earthquakes are with a coronal hole. So there's that. Zaza Maritsu says, Man Bear Pig is real. Yeah, I'm aware. I've heard of it. I probably saw the channel. So, when I fly from California to Nevada, there's big turbulence. The heat is real. Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably flying out of more Pacific air stuff into more desert air masses. Desert air masses tend to be dry. So, you know, if when you fly over a desert, in all likelihood, you'll get some turbulence. And then, interestingly, when you fly out of a high pressure zone into a lower pressure zone too, the plane sometimes it'll just like drop like 50 feet, because you've got a lot of lift here at this given airspeed and pressure and humidity and so on and temperature. And now all of a sudden you hit less massive air. Boom, the plane just literally just drops like 50 feet. Like, that's the thing that happens all the time. It freaks people the hell out because you feel like you're falling, because you are. But, you know, then it regains lift. The pilots have some idea of when this is going to happen because they have flight radar. So they might even tell you, you know, they might like tell you to put your seatbelts on, I think, and stuff. Like, this isn't rocket science. People know how to forecast the weather. Those of us who understand meteorology and aircraft tech know how to forecast the weather. Like, people that think chemtrails are a thing can't forecast the weather. Don't you know? Let's cast away all doubt here. Like, why is it that people who can forecast the weather will tell you that chemtrails are imaginary, but people who can't forecast the weather seem to think that they're a real thing? Questions, right? Questions are many times much more valuable than answers, aren't they? Because you're better off asking somebody a question that makes them think they figured out a thing than you are just telling them a thing. Because if you ask them a question and they're like, oh, I've had an epiphany, oh, now I know how weather works, you have to do it like sometimes you have to do it that way because they're not paying attention otherwise. They're like, I'm not listening to this CIA shill. He's paid by the CIA to pretend like there are no chemtrails. Yeah, I'm paid by the CIA, all right. I'm the lowest paid CIA agent in history. And interestingly enough, I do have a national security clearance. So how about that? How about them apples? Yeah, I have a national security clearance. Why? Because Homeland Security offered me a job, and I turned it down because the offer sucked. What they wanted me to do was dumb, and I'm not even going to go into it any more than that. But I passed all their silly exams, and to take the exams, I needed to have a full-on cavity search of my history. So I mean, I've got a buddy who's in the FBI too. So I can't have an FBI file and have him be a computer specialist. You see, if I had an FBI file, they would have been like, "Sorry, we can't hire you because like we've been friends since like kindergarten." So, you know what I mean? Like if I was some kind of like international criminal and he got a job as a computer specialist for the FBI, you see there'd be a conflict of interest there, right? So, yeah, I've you're not going to find higher levels of credibility. You don't know anybody. In all likelihood, there are very, I'll just say this, there are very few people that can handle more responsibility. So, yeah, I do have a national security clearance. The low level one that it is not going to just expire unless there's some reason for it to expire. That's just the way they work. And yeah, I know national secrets that I can't tell you about. It's really not a big deal, but I guess some people think it is. I don't know. Whatever. It's whatever. So yeah, Barb Arian says she questions everything. That's smart. That's a good move. Definitely question everything. Don't take my word for it. I mean, you're not going to hear me say nonsensical things. I mean, and look, I got into space weather because cosmology, folks. There's a bridge between cosmology and there's a bridge between cosmology and Earth. Okay? And the bridge between cosmology and Earth is heliophysics because cosmology is based on heliophysics. The reason that we think we know what's going on in a distant interstellar system or indeed galaxy is because we think we know what's going on inside the sun. So when I took astronomy back in the 1990s, I noticed that there were some issues with that astronomy class. I thought the section on the sun would be a little more sophisticated. It was not, and that was not encouraging because I figured that there would have to be some, like a long, rather complex chapter about heliophysics, and there wasn't at all. So, just a cautionary, a word of caution about stars and their composition of gaseous plasma and what's going on in their cores. And I won't get too controversial about it in this stream because this is just like hey, here's what's currently going on. The earthquakes are chilling. The Fed left interest rates the same. There is some weather across the U.S. Cincinnati might see some tornadic activity. It's not looking optimal, that's for sure. And yeah, but there's not really that much moisture there. There's a lot of evaporation, it looks like, happening. But yeah, things are pretty chill. There's some pretty strong stuff going on there off the coast of South Carolina. Some really like properly rapid cloud nucleation happening down there. And some very strong storms there. South of Wilmington, North Carolina. Right on Highway 17. Yeah, Highway 17 is getting kaplastered right now. And Wilmington, North Carolina is about to get kaplastered. Yeah, a slow moving supercell there, just making its way up to whatever that thing is. That river, Dawson's Creek or whatever. All right, yeah, so I don't want to make this too long because I'm injured and I can't hold my head up for extended periods of time or it will get very uncomfortable. So fortunately, I think it's just muscles. I'm almost recovered from this now. But yeah, it's cross training. You have to do it, but when you do it responsibly. Don't Do it. Keep it civilian. Don't be like, just because I'm, you know, just because I'm pretty okay at bikes doesn't make me pretty okay at doing pull-ups. Like, I can't do a pull-up. I don't care. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings in the slightest. I've got some I've got some resistance bands coming that are long enough that I can like loop them around the pull-up bar and then put my foot in the one loop or something, or in the both loops, put both feet in both loops or whatever. And then I'll have, whatever, 25, 35 pounds of resistance helping me out, and then I'll be able to do a pull-up eventually, and I'll act like it's a big deal to be able to do one pull-up. I mean, when I was a kid, I was able to do like three or four. Uh, it's it's not really conducive to cycling, right? How often do you do this when you're riding a bike? Like zero times ever. So, it's not a big deal. But when I'm at ideal race weight, I want to be able to do pull-ups, because the ideal race weight is like as low as weight gets. So at the end of the year, that's what happens. So anyway, just figured I would do a little stream here and talk about how the quakes are chilling, the Fed left rates the same, and the sun it's actually pretty active. I mean, got quite a few active groups there, and we got some weather, and hey, we got some recipes, right? People are putting up recipes at smashomash.com/forum. If you haven't checked that out, smashomash.com/forum. It's free. It's spectacular. And there's all kinds of threads in there that you can interest and amuse yourself with, perhaps, and even contribute if you create an account. So it's about time to end this thing and go do more rehabby things. Maybe I'll even disclose what those things are. But yeah, it's really not a big deal. It's almost good now. And one thing is, and thanks for leaving a comment, shamed over. One thing to know about athletes is that those of us who know how muscles work, we don't like to take NSAIDs. NSAIDs like aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, sodium, things like that. We don't like to take those because the inflammation is necessary for muscle synthesis. So like if your neck is trying to grow new muscles and you take NSAIDs to eliminate the pain, you might not grow as many new muscles as you would, and hence, you get less fibers, you get less strength, and it hurts your athletic performance. So, a word to the wise: if you're trying to build muscle, NSAIDs are not helpful for that. So, I mean, of course, like sometimes you got to get rid of the pain so you can work and things like that, of course. But the best way typically to recover from most things is just rehab. You'll just recover on your own without intervention. So maybe that's one to grow on. Hopefully it helps you out. And yeah, time to close this thing out. We'll see you soon here at the Smash News Network. These busted name of news. I've been your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And until next time, may that solar wind be at your back.